Hi everyone, Bill Miller here, talking about emotional and verbal abuse, and I think I'm going to start throwing in psychological abuse because it seems crazy after all of the reading and time I've spent researching and working on this, that psychological abuse definitely describes me better than anything else. The difference between emotional abuse and psychological abuse being, while they are tied together somewhat, the difference would be emotional abuse would be, just to give an example, would be like, kind of maybe yelling at your spouse, insulting her, putting her down, making her cry. Making her sad, making her angry, but treating her in ways that cause her to become very emotionally wounded, sad, hurt, angry, upset, and just by using horrible words and phrases towards her and things like that. And while that was a part of me for sure, that was definitely happened. She wasn't as emotional about it. She didn't cry when I would do my abuse, when I was being abusive to her. She wouldn't cry. She didn't get emotional. She probably got a little angry and things, but I feel like psychological abuse would be more criticizing her to where she questions whether or not she's doing the right thing or wrong thing. As an example, we used to talk about the way she dressed quite a bit. She dressed very, a lot of skin showing, which is just the way she likes to dress. She's very beautiful, very voluptuous, perfect body. She just liked to look cute and wear clothes that and no one really knows the psychology behind all that. My daughters wear short shorts every day, all summer long. My sisters did growing up. Every it's just the way. Generally speaking, girls dress. They just like to wear tank tops, belly shirts, short shorts, short skirts. Anyway, my wife is no different than that. But, working where we worked, it made me very uncomfortable. Working at a bar and having a bunch of drunk guys kind of drool all over her all day. The workplace for me, I was hoping for a little more like professional dress, not like she was going to the beach, but more like she was going to work. Like when she worked in the medical offices, she would never ever wear clothes like that. But anyway, so it would always cause tension between us, and my abuse towards her, making her feel a certain way, that's more psychological abuse. That's making her question her herself. I turned it into a self-esteem thing, like she needed the compliments, like she thrived off of, the less she wore, the more guys would obviously say things and compliment her, and that's what I would, that's how I felt. And even if that's, even if I felt that way today, telling her and making her feel bad about the way she dresses isn't, that's like psychological abuse. That's making her question her morals and ethics, which she always held strong and said ethically she's perfect. She's very she would never cross that line in our relationship. I believe that to be true. Even though one time when she was mad, she told me she did, which that still hurts a little bit today, but yeah, that's probably more in line with what I did, is the more psychological abuse. Making her, telling her things, saying things to her that were mean, that would maybe question, like that would erode away her self-esteem. maybe erode away her self-worth, the way she viewed herself, questioning whether she was right, or I was wrong, just putting those doubts in her head and making her feel certain ways about, messing with her confidence levels and things like that's a lot more psychological abuse, and that's actually, I think, a lot more in line with what I did. Like, my biggest problem, that was probably a lot more accurate for who I was. So instead of being emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive is probably more what I was, although they're very, very similar for sure. Just thought I'd throw that out there because I came across that today in my reading, and it seemed to fit me better. So so what something interesting I read today, which is actually very concerning for me. Now, this is in the Washington State domestic violence program that I'm going through. I've said it before, but I'm going through the Choices program, which is what California uses, and I'm also going through the program that Washington State uses for most domestic violence cases. They have 8-hour programs, 12, 16, 24, 30, 36, 52-hour programs. And I'm doing the long ones. I'm doing the 52-hour programs for both states. And I don't know why I chose California. It just happened to be a YouTube video that I watched. It's called the Choices program. And it was really, it was pretty intense. Just the YouTube video was. And so that's what I started with. And then living in Washington, I thought that would probably be a more appropriate one for me to do, since, this is where I am. Obviously, they're incredibly similar, but, the value I get out of most of it, or a lot of it, is reading the stories, the examples of, Tom and Janet, or whatever, and the story, what they went through, and their examples of abuse and things like that. I draw a lot from those stories, and none of the stories are the same in either book. I mean, in the books, none of the stories are the same. They're all different examples of relationships gone awry, like, turning abusive and things of that nature. So the more I read, the more I can read, the better chances I have of, reading things that hit home with me, that register with me, that I can then, take into account, and if it's not something I'm already working on, then something that I make note of to start working on. I can get into that a little bit later, but for today, the one that they talked about was actually stalking. So my wife and I separated 6 weeks ago now. I would like to say she left me, but the reality is we got in an altercation, in an argument. There's some physicality that went on. The cops were called. I went to jail. There's a 4th-degree assault charge against me. And that's that. Once that happens, there's a no contact in place. So, no contact has been made on either side, on any level. So, no one's really left. She hasn't really left me yet. I know it's coming. I mean, obviously. So I always say she left me, but that actually hasn't happened yet. We're just separated right now. But anyway, since we've been separated for 6 weeks, and I, like I've mentioned in almost all my videos, I write my wife a letter every single night. It's my way of being able to talk to her still, even though I can't actually talk to her, and I'm sure she doesn't even want to talk to me. It's still just my way of communicating with her, letting her know what I'm going through, like she cares, but I mean, letting her know, things that I've learned. And they're not letters that I'll send her or anything. It's kind of my self-therapy that I do for myself. But I kind of just talk to her. I let her know how much I love her, how much I miss her, how sorry I am for every single fucking instance of abuse that I put her through. Sorry to cuss, but that I had to emphasize that one because it's very true. Every single instance of abuse, I am so incredibly sorry for, to her. I wish I could take everyone back. There's not one excuse for one of them, not even a little bit. It's wrong on every single level, and in every single instance it was dead wrong. That's all there is to it. Dead wrong. And I wish more than anything in the world I could take every one of them back, but obviously we can't do that. So I just, I make sure that I let her know how sorry I am, because I am. That's the truth. But then tonight I was reading about stalking, and the definition of stalking is, I don't know it verbatim, but everyone knows what stalking is, I guess. But trying to maintain contact with someone, trying to talk to people, to someone that doesn't want to talk to you, following them, stopping by their work uninvited, stopping by their house uninvited, just being present in their life when they don't want you present in their life, that would be stalking someone. Well, I mean, for me, that's still my wife. It's been 6 weeks. That's still my wife. I'm grieving every day, and writing her letters is helping me, through my grieving process. It's a way for me to stay in touch with her, even though it's not staying in touch with her. But it just kind of got me thinking, what if she knew that I was writing her letters every night? Would she think that it's, I mean, I know right now there's, I just feel like she hates my guts, I don't know how else to feel other than she absolutely despises me and hates my guts. It's a hard reality for me. It's my wife, I'm her husband. We got married for a reason. We were magnets, by God. He put us together, and we felt that way every day, pretty much, that God brought us together. And like we talked about getting tattoos, just these really cool magnet kind of tattoos that she came up with, just because we just truly believe that God, we just had this magnetism between us. Now I'm sure she just despises me. She probably thinks I'm the worst human being on earth. So it makes me wonder / worry, internally worry, like, if she knew I was writing her letters every day, would that be sweet, or would that be creepy? Like, at what point do I let it go? Like, at what point do I stop writing her letters? Like, I know the minute that I have absolute confirmation that she's going to divorce me, I mean, when that day comes, I might write a couple of, just heartbroken letters, maybe. Obviously not send them, but I know I feel like at that point the letters would stop. Once I know that she's not going to put any effort into forgiving, if that's not in her internally, if it's not in her to, try to work through this, try to persevere, try to, I guess, see if, it's something that, yeah, we both were abusive. I was more abusive without a doubt. It doesn't mean she wasn't abusive, because she was, and there's not one excuse in the world for her, her instances of abuse. like me taking responsibility for every single instance of abuse that I, put onto her. In a perfect world, she would also be taking that responsibility for the times that she, was abusive to me. But that's neither here nor there, really. I guess what I'm getting at is, at what point does my love for my wife and my commitment to our marriage, to our love, to our relationship, like I honor her every single day. I go about my days exactly like as if she was here in front of me. I can't fathom the day another human draws my attention. Like, that makes me sick to my stomach. I love her. Everyone in the world knows I do. Every customer, anyone in the world that knows me knows that I love her, and I honor our marriage just like it was perfect and we were still living together, because I still pray to God every day that happens, that she does say, you know what, he wasn't perfect, but neither was I. And if she saw how much work and how much effort I'm putting into changing my patterns and behaviors, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours I've put into this at this point. I would wager probably more than any person over the last 6 weeks, any person in this world has put in towards the effort I've put into overcoming my abuse and my behaviors and understanding how it all works. I'm not doing it to get my wife back. I'm not doing it to impress anyone. I'm doing it because I can't stand the person that I became. I hate the person that I became. I hate the person that I've spent the last 35 years of my life being. I hate him. I have unspoken anger to both of my parents that they could see how much I was changing. They could see the trouble I was getting to. Like, all of these signs, the abuse. I read so much about child abuse and the signs of a child going through, there's emotional abuse, there's neglect, there's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse. There's several different types of abuse for children to go through. And then, they all inevitably have warning signs of like, hey, if you see this happening with a kid, there's a really good chance they're suffering from, sexual abuse. If they're, don't like people touching them, or, will not get dressed in front of other people or undressed in front of other people, or, sometimes they're just really, really knowledgeable about sex, like in a weird way. There's so many, like signs for that, school teachers and people are very well aware of, to look out for an abuse. And I fall under a lot of them. I mean, a lot of those describe me to a T, not sexual abuse at all. But emotional. I would never accuse my parents of emotionally abusing me. Like, that's not my. I don't feel like that's my role. But boy, I'll tell you, when you look at the list of like, you look at the warning signs of a child that is suffering from neglect and emotional abuse. And it just fits me to a T. Yeah. I go through the list, I go through the list of, like, what teachers look for and what, you know, people look for. And god dang, man, it's crazy. You're like, fuck, that was me, that was me, that was me. You know, so, you know, like, while I'm not prepared to say I was neglected by my parents at all. I'm not strong enough to go there yet, because it might not even be true, and it's certainly not something I'm, you know, unless I'm god dang certain about, that I'm willing to, you know, cross that line. But I can tell you without a doubt, when I read all of those signs that, you know, you look for in a child that is suffering from neglect, holy shit, was it me? There's a tangent. I just thought I should probably cry in this episode, since I do in basically every freaking one of these that I do. How that got from stalking to that, I have no earthly idea. But I know I'm such an ugly crier. It's horrible. Anyway, so the stalking thing is what I went through tonight, and it was hard for sure, because like the last thing in the world I would ever do is try to be with someone that doesn't want to be with me. Like that's not a thing with me. That's not a problem I have. You know, I've you know, when I left, you know, a previous wife, there's no, like, I don't know, I've never really had a desire to stalk anyone. I don't go through cell phones. I've never gone through my wife's cell phone. I don't, you know, try to find out where she is, or you know, I don't know. I don't try to cross paths with her or whatever. I'm doing what I'm doing because I hate the, you know, the person that I spent, you know, my life being, and I'm fixing it, and that's the bottom line. I'm fixing it, whether my wife decides I'm worth, you know, our marriage is worth, you know, figuring out, fighting for, learning, discovering, changing, and persevering, or she decides not, and I'm still going to be a 1,000 times better person for the rest of my life, because of what I'm going through right now and the work I'm putting in. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I cry every goddamn one of these videos because you're rehashing your entire life. Every ounce of pain you ever felt, you're freaking like rehashing it. You're going through thoughts of like trying to figure out if your parents abused you and shit. And you're like, to me, it feels so disrespectful because my mom's a great freaking mom, you know. But after the kidnapping, she might have been a very, very preoccupied mom, you know, for a few years. And a very sad mom, and a very depressed mom. Like, I can't even fathom one of my daughters, that happened to one of my daughters. I won't fathom, like, it's too much to even fathom. But, you know, so you go through all this process isn't fun, but every day I'm getting better and better, and gaining more and more confidence, like internal confidence, and becoming proud of who I am, and I'm becoming more and more each day God's creature, like not a product of my environment and my upbringing, but getting more and more back to being the person that I believe God created and wants me to be. Just a small example, I was talking to someone yesterday, and you know, he definitely blessed me with the gift of gab. God did. My little brother always says, and always has said, he's like, you know, I could talk the Pope out of religion. Like, literally, he'd sit me in a room with the Pope for an hour, and he would come out and he wouldn't even be religious anymore if that's what I wanted to do. Like, I can talk anyone into anything at any time. Not at any time, but you know what I mean. Like, I've just always been blessed with that gift of gab. And you know, the past me, I got whatever I wanted because I was manipulative. I could talk, I could talk people into doing things. I could talk people into selling me things, giving me things, whatever, because I just, you just have, a lot of people just have this gift of gab, and I have, used it a lot. But now that I'm going through these changes, it's weird because the only, I feel like I was given this gift of gab to maybe help other people to help other people get through what I'm going through. I know I suck at these videos. I don't know how to edit anything. I don't know how to hit pause. Like when I watch the YouTube videos, there's a little pause and then they pick up almost right where they left off, but they obviously took a break or stopped and edited or whatever. I don't know how to do that stuff. And it's not really my thing. I don't want to get into editing and then what I start putting makeup on or whatever. I just sit here and chat, and if things register with people, then great, and if not, then it's still helping me with my therapy. But anyway, now just going through what I'm going through now, I wonder or feel like maybe my gift of gab was put on me to help other people, and that's something that I'm exploring. Just in the past day and a half, I'm thinking about it a lot, like how I can do it, what I should do, what I could do, and it helps. It would be neat. That would be something that I feel like I could really get into, and it would keep me held accountable. I could teach people, help people. I could be there for people. I could, and learn more and more all the time about my own patterns of abuse and behaviors and things, and pass that on to people that are going through the same. I know there are millions of us out there that are literally suffer from the same exact stuff that I've gone through, just with the defense mechanisms and patterns and behaviors and drinking, and there are millions of us out there, and a lot of us aren't going to change until you lose someone that you really love. But I'm really hoping that somehow, some way, something comes up to where I can start helping people with just the way I can connect to people. So that would make me happy. But anyway, so to close, since I always ramble about 1,000 different things other than what I'm here to talk about, the stalking is hard because what I feel like I'm doing is I am very mindful. I think about my wife all the time, and everything I do I think about her because I love her. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that she is also looking at herself and thinking, hey, I'm responsible for my part in this, and if he's taking care of himself and I take care of myself, then we might still be able to have the most amazing marriage on earth. I'm hopeful still. I pray every day that God leads us back together with this healthy me, and this every day getting more and more healthy, and that's not going to stop for a long time. So I pray for us. But this other book has me wondering, because it's all about helping the abuser or the victim. At what point is it stalking? Because I feel like if she knew that I wrote her letter every day, she would say, stop, don't do that, it's a waste of your time. And I feel like if she knew that I prayed for us every single night, she would say, it's pointless, it's not going to happen. And I feel like if I told, if she knew that I still have hope for our marriage and for our life together, I feel like she would say, there is none, don't waste your time hoping. So I feel all that, and it makes me want to quit, because if she doesn't want, if she has no hope, if she has no desire, if she's if she, you know, because when we were together, she truly believed, or said so anyway, that all of her behaviors were because of me. You know, her episodes of abuse were because I put her there and made her do that, you know. Now I know differently, like you have to be responsible for your own actions. I also know that I probably affected her in such negative ways that it did cause her to behave in ways that she's very ashamed of. You know, like me, I'm so absolutely mortified and ashamed of my actions. She didn't cause mine. I mean, I allowed, and I can't say I allowed her to, I allowed her actions, I perceived her actions in ways that allowed, you know, that caused me to behave certain ways. But anyway, so I don't know at what point I stopped writing the letters and I stopped having hope. And I stopped praying to God for her, to want to try. I'm not there yet. In my letter tonight, I talked about this, and I told her that, you know, if the day that she serves me with divorce papers, I might write a couple of sad letters after that, and then just be done with them. Because at that point, it's obvious, you know, it doesn't mean I'm going to move on. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop loving her. It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm just gonna say, oh, okay, that's done. Now I'm gonna, you know, try to go find someone else for me or something like that. That's not a thing. But it does mean, like, at some point, I need to, if somebody doesn't want me, to just stop having hope, and stop praying for it, and stop, you know, talking to her like she's still my wife if she doesn't want to be. So there's that. I don't really know what my point was tonight. Stalking is horrible. There's my point right there. Don't do it. All right, till next time. Bye.